Well, good morning. This is Jim Schroeder, the Reverend Esquire. That's right. I'm a pastor for the last 25 years and attorney for about the last dozen. And Saturday morning here at the office, got a call from a brother this morning who was asking about they built a beautiful new multi-purpose building on their campus. And he wanted to know about policy for who can use the building. They're concerned about a couple of different things with that, and the board is kind of split on who that they want to let use that building. Want to begin with the basic principle that the simplest policy is the one that everybody remembers and that everybody can follow. So, from the biblical perspective, we had 10 commandments and we turned them into about 140,000 directives by the time Jesus comes around, and people could barely keep a few of them. So if you have a policy and it's written away or tucked away in a 3-ring binder somewhere and nobody knows where it is, they're probably not following it, and you have probably put yourself in more legal danger than if you had no policy at all. So let's start with a simple policy. And here's what I would say. If you are a membership driven church, and you're comfortable with members being people that understand who you are and your community culture, I would use members. If not, I would use your board members. But for somebody to use the building for a birthday party, for an event, for anything as far as that, they must have a sponsor. So a person from the community cannot call. They don't have the right to call and borrow the church or rent the church or even by donation use the church or the church facilities. Just in the same way, if you were to open your house to the community, I would imagine that somebody from the family would be in the house, right? To show them, make sure that there was toilet paper on the rolls, and that if you're the kind of house where you take off the shoes by the door, you let people know that, or if you're not. So in the same way, the first thing that that helps with is conduct. So a member of the church or a director or trustee or board member of the church needs to sponsor that event or that group. Whether you require that person to be there or not, that's up to you. But simply being, this is an opportunity for you to open the building up to the community, but it's also an opportunity for evangelism when you think about it, right? Because now it's not just, hey, you can use the building, it's we're welcoming you. Our church, our membership, we're welcoming you to come onto our facility, and there's a witness attached to it. So from a spiritual directive, that's, I think, an important part, right? So we want to make sure that the conduct on our property is glorifying to God. So having a member or somebody from your church there to begin to help discern and explain that to people that don't understand it is an important thing. So conduct, that's key. The second thing is insurability. So if you are going ahead and you're letting people from the community use the building, and you have a member of your church who is there or your board who's the one who's there, it's actually a church event when you think about it that way. So if you have a person from the community, or if you have a person from your church who is in a quilting club, and she would like or he would like to have the quilting club use the fellowship hall on Mondays at 11 a.m., and they're the sponsoring person, that's an outreach of that person's ministry to welcome their friends in the quilting club to come to the church. Or if it's a sign up for a group, or if it's a Girl Scout group or something like that, you need to go ahead and have that sponsoring person. At that point, in my opinion, and I would make the argument from an insurability standpoint, that this is a naturally foreseeable thing for an insurance company to ensure that people from that church that are part of the leadership of that church and members of that church would be welcoming the community into the church. If not for that, what is a church, right? So if it is an organization, sometimes we have an opportunity to open it up and open our facilities up to an organization that is like-minded or is doing parallel type service in the community. For instance, your county department for senior citizens may be looking for a place once a week or once a month to host a meal or to just have a day, drop-in day for seniors. And maybe you don't have somebody who is directly related with that with the board. Certainly you could have somebody who's the sponsor, but also when you're dealing with another full entity, right? A either nonprofit or a for-profit entity that is sponsoring, and maybe they're advertising and saying, ABC County Board of Aging is having a luncheon at so-and-so community church on this date. It's clear that there's two organizations there, right? There's your church and your insurance policy, but also if something were to happen there, the invitees are actually not being invited by the church. The people that are being invited by this other organization. So if you ever rent, whether there are dollars exchanged or not, certainly you can do by donation. I recommend two things. One, you have a contract, even if it's a one-page contract with expectations for both parties. What time you're coming, what time you're leaving, who's responsible for cleanup, who's responsible to turn the light on, the heat on, all that kind of good stuff. And also to understand that the parties do something, they indemnify or they insure each other. And if you're going to do that, you're going to want to get a piece of paper from that organization. It's very important. It's called a COLI, C-O-L-I, a Certificate of Liability Insurance. It's a one-pager. Every insurance company, every commercial insurer is going to know what you're talking about, and it's a standard form. In the bottom left corner of that form, it has a block. Your insurance policy, it has one of these pages in it already, but on the COLI, it has a block in the bottom left corner for additionally insured. So if the County Department on Aging has their insurance policy from their risk management company, they'll be able to very quickly prove to you that they have an insurance policy. It'll have the dates covered. It'll have their name at the top. But what you want to see is your church's name written in that block in the bottom left corner. And then when you see that, what that is doing is that's putting the other organization's insurance company on notice. Hey, we're using XYZ Church's facilities, and if there's a claim that's coming in for XYZ Church's facilities, you've been made aware that we're using it, and it becomes that much harder for them to go ahead and say, well, we didn't know about this, or we didn't agree to insure this, or this is beyond the scope of our policy, or any of those kinds of things. The other thing it does is sometimes when it comes to payment, it makes it easier for that insurance company to make payment directly to you rather to that other entity, and you have to chase them to get whatever fixed it is that you need to fix. Now, obviously, these are catastrophic type things that we're talking about, and hopefully it never happens, but both we know as a minister and I can as a lawyer, we've got to think about these catastrophic things. So there are three things I want you to think about in closing when you're developing a policy for who can use your church. The first one is evangelism. How can this building be something that we can appropriately use to glorify God and to welcome people into the church? The second thing is conduct. What conduct is appropriate in this building and on this property? What kind of conduct would you like to see, and what kind of conduct is not permitted? Alcohol, other kinds of things. You need to make those decisions up front. And then the third is liability. If something catastrophic happens, who is the insurer? Who's going to pay? Who's responsible for those things? So some things for you to think about. quick 10 minutes on how to go ahead and develop a very simple policy. If you have any questions, you can reach me at jim@southwestohiolaw.com, and of course, anywhere here on this website. Have a great day.